Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fundraising live stream for the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution. My name is Luna.
And I'm Annie Day.
And we are out to raise $50,000 by June 1st. And so right now, for people who are tuning in, share this live stream on your social media, invite your friends to tune in, spread the word every way that you can right now. And we're here, I just want to say that we're here together at a very extreme moment in time in history. Because right now, the Supreme Court is poised to overturn Roe versus Wade and take away the right to abortion, enslaving the half of humanity that is female. And we are also in the midst of a brutal, bloody invasion of Ukraine, with US and NATO waging a proxy war with Russia. This is a fight over who will control not only that region, but the world as a whole. And in this fight lies the actual danger of World War III, and with it, the potential extinction of humanity. And so today, we're going to talk about the force fighting to break out of all of this and fight for a radically different and positive future. And we're going to talk about your essential role in all of this.
So for those tuning in today, we want to thank you and we want to welcome you. You are part of a revolutionary community with people all across the country coming together to be part of and to support the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution. We're in a rare time when a real revolution could be possible. And this system is in crisis and the rulers are at each other's throats. What is most urgently needed out of this is a revolutionary force. First in the thousands and then in the millions. And this tour, which you're going to hear a lot about today, is on the ground, it's on social media, it's aiming to impact the media, reaching into every corner of society, bringing forward the organized forces for revolution and changing what people see as necessary, what they see as possible, and what they see as worth fighting for. This tour is giving leadership to, and it's building up the forces for revolution all across the country, aiming to gather forces, literally everywhere in this country. And the tour is now anchored in Los Angeles, and volunteers have come from across the country to be part of this, to dedicate ourselves to this full-time to this mission. But to make any of this possible, it requires your funds. It requires your funds, it requires your support, and it requires the support of all those who want a better world. In this revolution, on this revolution tour, we're followers of Bob Avakian. He's the revolutionary leader. He's the author of The New Communism. And if you want to get free, if you want humanity to get free, then you need to be too. We're basing ourselves on and we're working to apply a major work from Bob Avakian titled Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating. Profound crisis, deepening divisions, the looming possibility of civil war, and the revolution that is urgently needed. This talk is a basic foundation, and it's a roadmap for this revolution. That's something that on the National Revolution Tour, we're actively digging into. You should actively dig into it, and we're applying it, along with this important document, which you can get on revcom.us, a declaration and a call from the Revcoms to get organized now for revolution. And we do this through our website, through revcom.us. We do it through the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, at youtube.com/the Revcoms, where I hope you're watching this live stream. And you're going to hear more about all of this today, like I said. And on the tour, we also do this on the ground through reaching out to high schools, college campuses, neighborhoods, where people are catching the most hell under this system, but also reaching out to people in the arts and cultural scenes. And again, to do any of what's required right now on this National Revolution Tour, it requires your financial support. That's what the $50,000 is going to, that we're aiming to raise between now and June 1st. And we're aiming to get pretty far in that goal here with you today. These funds are needed for gas money to get places, for rent, for housing, for the beautiful studio that we're in from the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, the lights, the cameras, the sound equipment, but also for the volunteers so that we can dedicate ourselves to this full time and not have to work crap jobs, wasting time that humanity does not actually have. So if you're tuning in, give $5, give $50, give $500, and most of all, call people you know. You're going to hear a lot today about why this matters, what difference this National Revolution Tour makes, and why they should be giving support. So if there's anyone you know who's ever thought about whether the world could be radically different, why we live in the nightmare we live under, then contact them now and tell them to tune in. You can contribute on Venmo, on CashApp, through PayPal. You can send a check. That info is on the bottom of our screen. And we have raised so far, as you can see, $3,526 towards our $50,000 goal by June 1st. And we're gonna talk to you soon about some of the matching donations that we're aiming to meet in this next hour.
That's right. So again, we want to thank everyone who's tuning in right now. And if you just started tuning in, start spreading the word about this. And we want to thank everyone who's already contributed and donated. And look, just to say, for people who have contributed already, like, you are part of a beginning, but serious and growing force determined to bring into being a brighter day for people here and all around the world. And so now I'm going to give a rundown of what you're going to be a part of today. So first, we're here just 1 week away from Revolutionary May 1st, a day to stand with and fight for the people of the world. And so the RevComs have called for marches in LA and New York under the urgent slogans: no US-NATO war with Russia, no World War III. It's this system, not humanity, that needs to become extinct. We don't accept their future. It's time to get organized for a real revolution. So in just a few minutes, we're going to bring in Noche Diaz, the national spokesperson for the Revolution Clubs, to talk about these marches. And then we're also going to have a whole segment on the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show with Atlas Winfrey, who helps produce the show every week. And you're going to hear from the revolutionary leader, BA, and you're going to hear from volunteers on the National Revolution Tour. And you're going to see footage of what we've been doing on the ground, impacting society. And you're going to hear from each other with inspiring and challenging messages of support, of why you're donating and contributing, and what all of these donations and what your contributions will actually help make possible. So don't just stay tuned, but right now, text 5 friends, family members. Tell them to tune in. Tell them why you're donating, why you're contributing, and ask them to match it. Again, we are trying to raise $50,000 by June 1st, and at the bottom of the screen is what we raised of that so far, and where you can donate is also at the bottom of the screen. And so we want to reach that goal by June 1st because it is needed. And again, your contribution and others' contributions and telling people about this is part of making an actual revolution. So you need to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I think it's not like if we raise the $50,000 by June 1st that we're done. That's just the beginning and a small slice of what's needed. So it would be important if we even exceeded that. So don't worry about budgeting your fundraising. We have to go all out. We have to go all out now. So we want to read 3 statements of support that have come in so far. And the first 2 are from donors who gave $1,000 each. And this is our challenge together for the next hour, is we want to match these two $1,000 donations and raise a total of $4,000. So if you were thinking about giving, if you know somebody who is thinking about giving, what they give in this next hour will be amplified. So think about that, consider it, and listen to these to the messages that came from these donors. So the first says, I am a physicist and a public interest scientist who's been for decades working on nuclear war, climatic catastrophe, and alternative energy issues. I am donating $1,000 to support the RNL show and the May 1st demonstrations. The capitalist ruling classes of the 3 capitalist-imperialist superpowers are in a struggle to destroy each other economically and, if necessary, militarily. And in the process, they don't care if they destroy the human race by nuclear war or climate catastrophe. We must rise up in the millions for a revolution to eliminate this money-worshipping, demented capitalist system before they destroy us and their stupid, greed-blinded selves along with us. Of immediate importance are massive uprisings to stop the U.S. proxy military and economic assault on Russia. Along with this uprising, we must attack the rise of fascists, American, Ukrainian, and all other world fascists, with their assault on science, fact, logic, women, minorities, immigrants, non-Christians, and all others who are not rabid Aryans. So that's the first message that came with a $1,000 donation. So we want to thank you, the person who gave, and we want to encourage everyone watching to match that along with the next donor end statement.
Yeah, so this is a statement from a supporter in Chicago. They said, "Why I am donating a $1,000 matching challenge. I've contributed to the Revolution Tour and the RevComs for some time now, both as a sustainer and through fundraising at craft fairs, farmers markets, and yard sales, where we have raised as much as $1,000 at a time. And I always give something extra for Internationalist May Day. This year, I had been saving for a vacation, but decided this $50,000 fund drive is more important because in these rare times, we need to expand the reach of the RevComs much more broadly throughout society and very quickly. Incredible work has already been done with the RNL show, developing illustrated clips of BA's deep analysis of why this capitalist imperialist system creates the horrors that are only covered superficially in the mainstream media, when they even are. Addressing major issues of the day in the opening commentary, giving members of the Revolution Tour the opportunity to talk about how they are taking on the questions that they run into as they take out revolution to people. Boldly showing that it doesn't have to be this way, that there is another way forward to emancipate all of humanity. With more funding, they can both reach a much bigger audience and have greater influence. It also has been exciting to be a part of the weekly Rev Club sponsored RNL Zoom watch party and the discussion afterward, where we get more deeply into the topics each week. With help from the Rev Club, I hope to develop my own Zoom RNL watch party soon with friends from around the country. The Revolution Tour and the RevComs are fighting for a different future and need our support now. Who will step up and match the $1,000 donation?
So that's a challenge that's been put to all of you. Who will step up and match that, both of those $1,000 donations in the next hour? And we have 48 minutes that we're aiming to do this. So call everyone you know. So now I want to read a third statement from someone who spoke with an immigrant from Russia, and the Russian immigrant, contributed $20. So this is their statement. He says, it came in from the person who got the donation. And they said he had been drafted into the army of the Soviet Union when it was a capitalist country, even though it kept the name socialist, at a time when it was carrying out its own unjust war in Afghanistan. After the breakup of the Soviet Union to now Russia, he came to the US and has learned a lot about the true history and role of the US in the world. Since then, he has stood against US crimes in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other places ever since. And he calls on people in the US to heed the call from Bob Avakian, where Bob Avakian says that people need to free yourself from the GTF. In other words, the great tautological fallacy that America can do no wrong because America is a force for good in the world, which is then used to justify the whole history of slavery, genocide, and war today. So he calls for people here to oppose the US-NATO war against Russia in Ukraine and supports people in Russia opposing the crimes of their own imperialist government, and for all who can to be out with the RevComs on May 1st and to donate generously.
That's right. So these statements are very important to hear and to spread all over. In addition to these kinds of generous individual contributions, funds are being raised from people all across the country through people taking part in the RNL circles, supporters of the revolution, new and old, yard sales, people asking friends and family and coworkers, and more. And so raising funds is not just necessary to enable the National Revolution Tour to operate and have an impact. Raising funds itself is how the revolution can actually grow. And so through opening up the debate and discussion, why this revolution is not just necessary, but actually possible, about why people should make a sacrifice to support this, and about why people should give to this, not to the various dead-end reform schemes or the electoral bullshit or just continuing to spend your money on me. Raising funds is critical to getting organized for revolution.
Luna, I want to just interject real quick on that because I think people don't appreciate how significant and how true that is. Look, people do not understand, and this is something that the National Revolution Tour goes and wages a lot of struggle with people around, that the problem we're up against is a system of capitalism and imperialism, and we do not have to live this way. We actually can and need to get organized for an actual overthrow of this system to bring a whole different world into being, a whole new socialist society, a new socialist state power, which Bob Avakian, the revolutionary leader, the author of the New Communism, has actually written a constitution for a new socialist republic in North America that lays out that whole concrete vision and plan. But how, breaking that discussion open, both with individuals, but also all throughout society, asking people to make a sacrifice, to give a financial contribution to support this revolution in opposition to all of the places that you just talked about where people's money goes to, that opens up a debate about this revolution. So raising funds is essential, again, to support, I'm repeating you, but to support, to be able to do everything that this revolution requires, that building up the movement for revolution requires, but even to break open that debate, again, with individuals among all strata, among the people with great resources, people who are scraping together pennies, all of that, but us coming together to raise funds and support this revolution. And so I just wanted to underscore that point and call on everybody watching. Think through, go through your phone right now while we're sitting here. We're going to be live for the next hour and 45 minutes making the argument. So call everyone you know and have them tune in, and we'll make the argument for you about why they should give. And, I think through this, we're going to have a lot of discussion. You're going to hear a lot about what we're doing, but we also hope to raise people's sights and open up even more questions as we figure out together how to fund this revolution and how to spread this revolution.
That's right. So now we want to play 2 short videos that are about the need to raise funds from Dr. Phil Rice, who's a supporter of the revolution, and a video from someone in Cleveland talking about what they are doing to raise funds.
Hi, my name is Phil Rice, and I, like you, yearn for a better world, and I'm ready to fight to bring that world into being. The Declaration is a call to action, but not just any call to action, but a call to get into the revolution and get organized now for a real revolution. We are going to boldly take this declaration to all those who yearn for a better world, but we must just as boldly struggle with everyone to fund this revolution. Simply put, we can't go to where we want to go without raising the funds needed to get there. We can't get to where this time in history demands that we go if we intend to emancipate humanity without the needed funds to get there. Asking for donations and ongoing donations is a key part of revolution and bringing this declaration to fruition and life. Fundraising has to be part of how we bring people into organizing for a real revolution. And those that we bring forward as part of organizing for a real revolution need to embed this understanding and practice as they bring forward others. To not do this, to not have this as our standard practice, implies that we're not serious and not up to the task at hand, because people understand that you can't do something as momentous as this without funding. The Declaration says revolutions are not possible all the time, but generally possible only in rare times and circumstances, especially in a powerful country like this. This is one of those times and circumstances. We have to fundraise commensurate with the seriousness of this moment as we take out the Declaration. We must fundraise in the course of bringing people forward and building the movement. The whole world is watching and is hopeful. So let's get with it and make fundraising a key part of organizing and bringing people forward for revolution.
Hi, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and we will be doing in Cleveland, Ohio during the month of May 2022 2022, we will be putting on a fundraiser 2 weekends out of the month. And what we will be selling, we're going to have a bake sale, and we will be selling caramel apples, candy apples, cupcakes, cakes, and etc. And the money will be raised to help fund the RNL show and the Revolutionary Club. If you would be so kind enough to contribute $50, if you can't contribute $50, whatever you can afford to contribute would be greatly appreciated. It's time to get organized for a real revolution. No U.S. NATO war with Russia. No World War III. It's this system that needs to be extinct, not humanity needs to be extinct. We don't accept their future. It's time to get organized for a real revolution.
So thank you for sending in those videos. I'm sorry you're all the way in Cleveland, because that sounds like a great menu. But it also shows a great way to raise funds. And we got an email along with that second video that their fundraising goal for those 2 weekends is $500 to $600. And we can't emphasize enough how much difference that makes. So we're about to bring on Noche Diaz, national spokesperson for the Revolution Clubs, to talk with us more about May 1st. But before that, we're going to open with what this revolution is about from Bob Avakian. And this excerpt is about 3 minutes, is from a talk from Avakian's from 2018, why we need an actual revolution and how we can really make revolution.
So let's go back to why and what it will take to make all the outrages really stop. Why are Black people, Latinos, and Native Americans subjected to genocidal persecution, mass incarceration, police brutality, and murder? Why is there the patriarchal degradation, dehumanization, and subjugation of all women everywhere, and oppression based on gender or sexual orientation? Why are there wars of empire, armies of occupation, and crimes against humanity? Why is there the demonization, criminalization, and deportations of immigrants and the militarization of the border? Why is the environment of our planet being destroyed? These are what we call the 5 stops, deep and defining contradictions of this system, with all the destruction and suffering they cause, which must be protested and resisted in a powerful way, with a real determination to stop them, but which can only be finally ended by putting an end to this system itself. Why, along with all this, do we live in a world where large parts of humanity live in stark poverty, with 2.3 billion people lacking even rudimentary toilets or latrines, and huge numbers suffering from preventable diseases, with millions of children dying every year from these diseases and from starvation, while 150 million children in the world are forced to engage in ruthlessly exploited child labor. And the whole world economy rests on a vast network of sweatshops, employing large numbers of women who are regularly subjected to sexual harassment and assault. A world where 65 million refugees have been displaced by war, poverty, persecution, and the effects of global warming. Why is this the state of humanity? There is one fundamental reason. The basic nature of the system of capitalism, imperialism that we live under, and the way, because of its very nature, it continually perpetrates and perpetuates horror after horror. And in fundamental terms, we have 2 choices. Either live with all this and condemn future generations to the same or worse, if they have a future at all, or make revolution.
So that's a pretty good intro. Welcome, Noche. Thank you for being part of today's fundraising live stream. We have raised $3,559. And as you heard us announce, we're working towards a match of 2 $1,000 donations. So keep giving. If I'm gonna ask you a question in just 1 second, but I have known Noche for a long time, and this is an incredibly inspiring person to work with and to know and to listen to. So right now, call 5 people you know under 40, under 30. Call them and tell them to tune in and hear somebody who's talking about the future, and ask them to think about making a contribution during this next 15-minute segment. So, okay, Noche, welcome.
Hey, Annie. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be part of this fundraising live stream at a very important time and a very important work that we're doing here, to raise the funds for the National Revolution Tour. And it's been very moving and inspiring to hear these letters and to see these videos from people, and, who we're all in this sort of together and representing the hope for humanity. And as that sort of clip just brought us back to, in terms of like really what choices we have facing a world marked like this, is to live with all this or make revolution. And those of us who have chosen to not live with all this, represent a very important and precious thing for humanity.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that and agree. So why don't you start by talking some, Luna mentioned it at the beginning, but we are 1 week away from Revolutionary May 1st. So what are these rallies and marches, and what's the vision?
Okay, so look, May 1st is a revolutionary internationalist holiday celebrated by people all over the world to struggle for an emancipated future. This May 1st, we're calling the RevComs, we're calling for people to march in New York City and Los Angeles. In New York, it'll be in Harlem at Marcus Garvey Park. And here in Los Angeles, it'll be at MacArthur Park, okay? And we're going to be marching under the banner and the slogans: no U.S.-NATO war with Russia, no World War III. It's this system, not humanity, that needs to become extinct. We do not accept their future. It's time to get organized for revolution. And it's very important that at this time when this country, and everybody is looking at the situation in Ukraine and the destruction that has been caused by the invasion of Russia, of Ukraine. This country is making dangerous and threatening moves that could escalate the conflict there beyond just the proxy war that is currently being waged by supplying weapons, arms, and funding to Ukraine. And this could be a conflict that drags the whole planet into a World War III, which would not be, as Bob Avakian says, just a repeat of World War II. Okay, at a time when these superpowers are armed with nuclear weapons that make the bombs that the U.S. dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki look small and in comparison. This is something that, when we talk about extinction and the threat, of such, is very real and contained within how things are developing right now. And in this country, there is nothing but, at best, silence, and at worst, a lot of people pumping up and egging on the U.S. government to carry out even more military direct, involvement. And again, people are kept ignorant and foolish of the actual history of this country overall, but also very specifically the growing military aggression and military alliance that NATO represents, led by the U.S., that has been expanding and encroaching on Russia for years, bringing us to the situation that has now erupted into the invasion of Ukraine and the rivalry going on there. These are big time gangsters at each other's throats, holding nuclear weapons to each other's heads and threatening the whole future and fate of humanity, seeing who will back down and be chicken first. This is, without exaggeration, something that is very dangerous and existentially, threatens humanity. But it is also the case that this May 1st, you who are part of marching in these rallies and marches held by the RevCon, this is going to stand out as a very powerful and important line in the sand to say no to all of that, all right? At a time when no one else is raising that. very few voices are even being critical of the constant propaganda that's being pumped out at people. But nobody but the RevCons and those who are uniting with us right now are actually drawing this line. And on May 1st, when we step out and put out that poll, that's going to be a not only very important, but it's going to be a beacon of saying to the whole world, there is a force right here in the belly of the beast that is most responsible for war crimes, invasions, and destruction of countries, the USA, right here in the belly of that beast that is saying no and doing everything we can now to stop it from escalating this conflict and creating a situation where they're forced to back off from all this, brinkmanship and threatening.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about where you started in a minute
Yeah.
on the revolutionary pull out of this, but just on your last point, look, I think, it's true how much people are being lied to, how much distortion and how much people are being propagandized to go along with, to either just stay confused, to throw their hands up, or to go along and celebrate and cheer and applaud the crimes of their empire, and in particular in this proxy war with the U.S. NATO proxy war of Russia. But I also think, just to put it back to you and pose the question of what would it mean if people who don't want to see that actually marched under this banner of no U.S. NATO war with Russia, no World War III. And could you talk more about kind of there's sort of a global realignment that we're aiming for, not just on May 1st as a single day, but to start cracking that open?
Yeah, well, look, people need to see people who are actually representing something that is not going along with the interests of this or any of these imperialists all over the world. It's very, moving to see and important that people are recognizing that there are people in Russia who have taken, inspiring, actions and risks to oppose Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But there is far too few of that kind of an example being set by people in any of these other countries that are, part of the NATO alliance that has been, again, aggressively expanding for years and decades, and nothing in the U.S., in terms of actually also calling out their imperialists, quote unquote, and calling for people to actually oppose that. So, starting May 1st, again, first action that's, going to be, in this country, opposing the moves and direction towards war that is currently, ongoing. It's, despicable and commentary about the state of things in this country, but it actually is very, once again, a reminder of how precious it is to have Bob Avakian's leadership and the RevComs who are taking that up to go to work to change this direction in this situation, because we are at a time when huge stakes for humanity, both in relation to this war, the environmental destruction, all the 5 stops that we just heard Bob Avakian speak about, are coming to a head in a way where society is not going to be able to continue going on in the same old ways. And there's going to be a radical resolution, Bob Avakian says, in something terrible or something truly emancipating work. There's going to be a radical resolution of this one way or another. And that there's a potential for a radical revolutionary resolution, for something that's truly emancipating to come out of all this. So to have that, in this situation, very precious. To draw this kind of a line, to say no U.S. NATO war with Russia, no World War III, and get off your ass and get out in the streets with us to draw that line and make that demand too. Everybody of conscience, stop getting fooled and played or whatever it is that's got people, caught up in a lot of bad stuff. People should go to revcom.us and see Avakian's article, to Sean, or responding to Sean Penn's, madness and the way in which so many so-called, not just so-called, but actual progressives and liberals in this country are getting whipped up into supporting the U.S., their imperialists, and pumping them up. So be part of drawing this line for humanity, beginning May 1st, but in an ongoing way. Again, this sort of representing the first and initial salvo and beacon to the world that there are people right here in the belly of the beast who are not ugly Americans, ignorant of everything going around, swaggering around along with the gangsters who run this country, trying to get our peace and threaten and bully the rest of the world, but are working to bring it down through revolution and move everybody who's got a heart for justice and hatred about the way the world is to be part of drawing that line too.
Yeah, well, I think that's right, and we are 1 week away here. So
yeah, we are.
And the National Revolution Tour is part of who's giving leadership to this all across the country. I want to ask you another question, but I want to just a quick update. So we've raised $4,109. Now you're going to have to forgive me because I don't remember where we started. So someone's going to tell me how close we are to matching the $2,000 match. But I want to read real quick. We just got a $110 donation, and it came with a note, support statement that I think is a good segue to my next question to Noche. So the statement on why they gave $110 says, "What is the reality facing humanity and the planet? Revolution or extinction? This system only offers up fascism and extinction, while revolution offers humanity the chance to live sustainably and as emancipators of all humanity. Support the RevComs." So I thought that was a very good and very appropriate statement. And I wanted to then kind of move to, I know it's kind of the perfect segue.
That's my answer.
I want to move to then, if you could talk more about the other part of these slogans that are kind of, we're going to be marching under on May 1st and spreading all over between now and then. It's the system, not humanity, that needs to become extinct. We don't accept their future. It's time to get organized for real revolution.
Yeah, one is it has to be said. That comment, from the donor is very right on and important and very crisply said. And it has to be said: a system that offers up this kind of future or choices of futures, including various forms of extinction and Armageddon and style kind of futures. This is a system that has to be swept aside and buried. When we say this system, not humanity, needs to become extinct, it really does have to be the case where these relations between people, between different countries all over the world, have to be extinct. They do have to be buried. I mean, we have to get past this whole way in which society is divided into masters and slaves, oppressors and oppressed, and then different countries, where a few control the destinies of the billions and are able to threaten this kind of extinction, to all of humanity. And this May 1st, again, to have a force that is marching, drawing the very appropriate lines about what we need to do now to stop the escalation of potential World War III, but also representing a way out. I mean, it has to be the case that these imperialists are actually overthrown and aren't able to control the destinies and even decide in the futures that they offer up aren't even choices anymore because they have been overthrown, and where people actually have power over society and can actually back people up to change everything. You mentioned the Constitution written by Bob Avakian for the new Socialist Republic in North America. Not only would it outlaw the use of nuclear weapons and the development of nuclear weapons, it also provides a roadmap for how people could be unleashed to save the planet and the environment while providing for the needs of humanity. No other document, no other, constitution for any other country spells that out and lays out a roadmap for that. Actual real world hope to put an end to these extinction level threats that humanity faces by this system. This is part of why we don't accept their future. We do not have to. Okay, there is another way that's possible. We have the leadership, that Bob Avakian has been giving us. We have the understanding and the science he's developed. We have the strategy and plan to make a revolution, and we have this blueprint, this constitution for how we could run a new society. This is not hype. This is hope, real hope for a future worth living in, worth fighting for, worth living for now, and when necessary, dying for to bring it about. And these are the times that we're living in, are ones in which we could actually do that and give that gift to humanity. This is part of what, at the core of this is going to be represented on May 1st when people are marching shoulder to shoulder under these slogans with this, with the whole world in mind, so. Yeah.
It's very moving what you're walking through. And it really is the case that we don't accept just the way you put it, we don't accept their future because we do not have to. And how little understood that is. How much people feel the defeatism, how much people feel the hopelessness and the demoralization. And I just appreciate what you said going up against all of that.
And to people who are watching this, I mean,
Yeah.
look, the part of that hope and whether that's going to be real is not just what we are doing who are marching, although that's very important, but what what you heard from the sister who in Cleveland, I believe it was, people selling candied apples, and obviously candied apples are not going to overthrow this system by itself, but
By
they,
themselves.
by themselves. Hey,
But-
but this is the point: is that hope. I got my heart swelled seeing that video, and the hope that's represented by all of what we're talking about is made more real and able to actually have the impact that it needs to have by what you do to raise those funds and what you contribute to this fund drive, and what that sister was doing, both to raise the money, but also to let people know about the revolution and these slogans, the way she, laid them out. This accomplishes both things. It lets people know about this revolution and how to connect up with and be involved, and it raises the necessary funds to support and strengthen its reach, influence, organization, and ability to do what it needs to do. And again, so this hope that we have, making it real and actually, not just in potential, but realizing that potential is going to require a lot of struggle with people and ways of thinking that keep people down and trapped in this system. Struggle against the enemy and the system and what it's doing. It's also going to require getting organized for real, a revolutionary force, which is going to be fighting the power, transforming people for revolution, and it has to be building these networks of support, of fundraising and different kinds of ways of people backing each other up and building the kind of networks of revolution. The basis of points of attention, for the revolution that we have in the revolution clubs, which model a different morality, a different set of principles and methods and goals to be striving for, a different way to not just live a better life, but to live for a whole different future. And so what people are doing is part of, again, making this hope real for people.
Yeah.
What you're part of doing, by donating now, by spreading the word about this revolution, finding the different creative ways to be introducing people to this and raising the necessary funds to support it.
I want to ask you, Noche, because look, I think it's really essential what you're saying here about the organized networks of support that are built through fundraising are essential to the revolution that we have to make. And I do not think we can underscore that enough. And there's organizational importance to that, but there's also ideological importance to that. And if people have seen you on the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, we've seen you talk about these POAs, these points of attention for the revolution clubs. And maybe you could just say what the first one is, because I think it's very relevant to the ideological coherence. What I mean is like the knitting together of organized forces for revolution. So maybe you could just speak to that first point of attention.
Yeah, when you start working with the Revolution Club, getting training and drilling to march together, you'll learn these points of attention, how to live by them and what they are. Point of attention number one: we base ourselves on and strive to represent the fundamental interests of humanity, revolution and communism. We do not tolerate using the revolution for personal gain. This goes up against all of the ways in which people are trained in this society to evaluate everything from what's in it for me. What do I get out of this? Even when people enter into political life in some kind of a way, outrage at an injustice or a crime of this system, they immediately get descended upon and trained by a lot of, especially the woke, kind of, well, what's going on?
Sorry.
Keep going. That's fine. You have the woke identity politics stuff that comes and it's very popular now and hits people to evaluate everything, not from how outrageous and injustice is it, and how do we end this oppression and exploitation, but what's in it for me? What's in it for you? Okay, how does this relate to you? And this is, again, this point of attention sets out a different model and a different example. Fundamental interests of humanity. We don't tolerate using the revolution for personal gain because it's not about us. This is part of why we have to constantly come together to wrestle with why a revolution is necessary, what it involves, and what it is aiming for. Because the kind of struggle and sacrifices, and yes, fundraising and donating is a sacrifice. And we're going to be calling on people to make lots of sacrifice because they need to and they can, rise to that. And sacrificing, this whole thing of just living for self, the way this system, tells you all you can do. on the one hand, is a great sacrifice to give to humanity. But on the other hand, it's also a great opportunity to live for something worth living for, and to fight for something worth fighting for, and to contribute all you have to contribute to something that could actually matter for a different future. So this is part of what we're bringing to people, and yes, what's the needs and the problems that they have to be part of solving, but what's the opportunity that we have to do something that really matters.
And you see too why the discussion and opening up the doing the fundraising, asking people, challenging people to contribute funds, it speaks directly to the kind of struggle we need to have with people about revolution, and
right.
giving them the opportunity to be part of something that is bigger than themselves, making that sacrifice and doing it together with others. And now, relatedly, very good news of something we accomplished together. We've met the first of the $1,000 of the one of the $2,000 matches. We got cheering in the studio, and we are $353 towards the next $1,000 match. So what we're hoping, what we're fighting for, is in the next 16 minutes to raise $647, and to do that all together. So call your friends, say, hey, were you considering making a donation? You could give the $7 to bring us up to $640, or you could give $700 to make the rest of that match. So Noche, I just, I think the points you're making about the ideological struggle, the transformation, the opportunity to be part of something bigger than yourself in the fundraising. And maybe you can just look, we're going to have another live stream. There's a whole discussion I want to have with you about the revolution clubs, about leading the revolution clubs nationally. I do want to encourage everyone watching to go to revcom.us, and there's a special panel on the revolution clubs, and it's been asking people for feedback on what kind of guidance that people need in spreading the revolution in your area, in taking up the mission of the revolution. Write to us with ideas, with questions, with problems, but also your ideas on how we are together going to solve the problems of the revolution, including funding it. And this is a big problem we have to all of us solve together. So there's a whole other discussion on a different live stream I'd like to have with you in the future about that, Noche. But maybe you could just come back one more time to talk more about this next week, building for May 1st, what people can do to contribute to it, both financially, but also in their ideas and their spreading. Just leave us with your last thoughts on May 1st and these slogans.
Yeah, well, wherever you are, if you're not in LA or New York City, and you can get there, okay? Because there's no substitute for being able to come together with others and represent in this kind of a force, and to have the impact that the revolution needs to have by having people come together and act together. So if you're near New York City or Los Angeles, and you can get there on May 1st, get there. If you can get there before May 1st and be part of running with the revolution clubs to be building for May 1st, do that. But wherever you are, in addition to donating right now on this, live stream, spreading the word about this and getting others to contribute and donate too, I want you to mark your calendar for every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific time and 8 p.m. Eastern time and 7 p.m. Central time. The Revolution Nothing Less Show, youtube.com/the RevComs. This is where you get the necessary guidance and understanding you need every week to be part of building the revolution. Okay, and then, I think one of the videos mentioned that people come together and watch these shows together, or one of the letters mentioned people come together and watch this show. This is a very important way in which people grapple together over what, why a revolution is necessary, what it involves, and what it is aiming for. And that's a fundamental way in which people are getting organized. Okay, as you do that, learn about these points of attention, these different principles, methods, and goals that we're living by, and that have to represent the solid core of people who are rising up as conscious emancipators of humanity. Okay, and as we're doing all this, spread the word about May 1st. These revolutionary posters that are online, you can print out, or if you're in New York or Los Angeles, we're having a bunch of them printed, because this is one of the things and one of the ways in which people are going to find out about it and why we need your funds. Okay, we need to be able to have thousands of these posters printed and spread around the cities that these marches are happening in. But wherever you are, spread these slogans. No U.S.-NATO war with Russia. No World War III. This system, not humanity, needs to become extinct. We don't accept their future. It's time to get organized for real revolution. And go online and seriously dig into Bob Avakian and the work he's doing, the leadership he's providing, and the whole new framework and method he's developed, the new communism and the strategy that he developed on the base of that, the Constitution we've been talking about. These are ways in which people can fit themselves to be revolutionary, not just activists, but revolutionary leaders. And that's part of what is needed in this time, is people who are coming forward to, yes, spread the word about organize people into the ranks of the revolution, people with the heart to fight for something worth fighting for, fight the power and transform people through a lot of struggle to get ready for revolution. But as part of that, people need to become leaders. All right. And how you do that is by getting into BA and taking up this new communism and this strategic approach to making revolution, because now is the time. This is what's worth living for and lasting. You know what? Just since you were asking, those of people who are near LA, or in LA, this Friday is the 30th anniversary of the LA Rebellion. And we're going to be at Florence and Normandy marking this anniversary. And there's going to be a feature of that in the next episode of the Revolution Nothing Less show. And that's all I'll say about it for now.
All right. And Florence and Normandy is where the rebellion started 30 years ago, this coming Friday.
That's right.
So that's the significance of that. Well, Noche, thank you for coming and being part of the fundraising live stream.
And thank you all for donating and for spreading the word about this live stream and this revolution.
I want to say, look, it's to have the national spokesperson for the Revolution Clubs, part of the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution. This is the kind of national leadership that the Revolution Tour is able to provide. Yes, anchored in LA, and then giving leadership all across the country through revcom.us, through the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, through Noche, being able to work with revolution clubs all across the country. So I just, he was here with us, and I just want to underscore and emphasize, this is where your funds are going to. It's both for the National Revolution Tour to go out and reach people on the ground here in Los Angeles, but it's also to forge a core of leadership that's able to lead people all across the country. Like Noche said, through the Revolution Nothing Less show, the website, the website, and in particular, the website being where people find BA, and through social media to spread and with a lot of dynamism, this revolution. I want to make a special pitch here for people to become sustainers of the National Revolution Tour. Whether you can give $5 or $500 a month, it makes a vital difference to be able to actually rely on a certain amount of funding each month. Not just for the essentials like rent or transportation or printing materials. Yes, we spend a lot of money on printing materials because you have to reach people. You have to get on the walls. You have to get in people's faces. So to be able to rely on a certain amount each month, but also to be able to fund more major projects. Things like the tour hitting the ground and reaching out across the country. Ideas like doing maybe like concentrated trainings for members of the revolution clubs across the country, trainings to go deeper. What are the scientific breakthroughs of the new communism? Digging into the Constitution for the new Socialist Republic of North America that Noche talked about. Learning how to do sharp agitation. Bob Avakian says we have to be utterly outrageous and eminently reasonable. Well, that takes some work. So how do you, actually doing trainings of people so that they can learn to do that kind of agitation and to break through on how are we going to apply this roadmap? So consider becoming a sustainer. There's a number of people who sustain the Revolution Tour each month. Your contributions are vital. I think the sustainers run from $500 to $300 a month. But much more is needed. So if you can become a sustainer, become a sustainer. You should call that number on your screen. You can write to us at getorganizedforrevolutiontour@gmail.com and talk with others about becoming sustainers. Like I said, whether you can give $5 a month, $50 a month, or $500 a month, or even more, it makes a vital difference. So welcome back, Luna.
Nice to be back.
And we're going to give an update. We've raised $5,879. so far, and I don't have a sense of how close we are to meeting that last of the $1,000, the second of the $1,000 matches. But we've got 5 minutes till we set our goal, so we'll see where we're at soon.
All right, so that was a great segment with Noche Diaz, by the way, and I think that is a model for everyone who's tuning in right now. What does it mean to be a revolutionary in this day and age?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that should be a model for thousands of people right now who do care that there is a way to be, and there is a movement for you to join to change everything. So I wanted to read a statement real quick from a dreamer in Texas who donated $500. And so the statement says, "Millions of people long for a better world, yet they are afraid to hope. Millions of people care about humanity, yet they are mired in a culture of narcissism and chauvinism. Millions of people are degraded, dehumanized, exploited, and enslaved under this system. Yet we are told that this is the best and only possible world. We are hurtling toward a climate catastrophe that will make the earth uninhabitable and lead to the extinction of humanity. Yet we are overrun with magical thinking, anti-science lunacy, religious fundamentalism, and fascism. And the precious few who do lift their sights to the possibility of a world beyond all this are hurled with bullshit from the rulers of this system and their mouthpieces, who are terrified of the people rising up. And there are millions of people who can become the forces for a real revolution, a new communist revolution, who don't know about this or are being trained to think in ways that are counter to this revolution and very harmful to the people. So we'll take leadership, the scientific leadership of Bob Avakian and the RevComs, to overcome these obstacles and make the revolution that is urgently needed and realistically possible. Over the last year, by watching the RNL show, reading the website every week, digging into BA's body of work, and talking with the RevComs, I am developing the understanding and determination to become an advocate for the new communism and an active part of this revolution. The challenges and provocations that have come from Bob Avakian and the RCP over the last year have made me hopeful, but have also made me a more critical thinker and more confident in my ability to understand and change the world. These are some of the mind-blowing breakthroughs of last year. That this is a rare time when revolution becomes possible, that woke identity politics is not only causing people to sleepwalk through a nightmare, but also putting people who should be with this revolution on a path of revenge, intimidation, and repression. That out of the sharpening divisions and contradictions in society, something truly terrible or something truly emancipating is possible. But this depends on bringing forward a revolutionary people and developing revolutionary leadership in the thousands and then millions. That the conflicts between Russia and the United States and other capitalist-imperialist countries are conflicts between slave masters. When slave masters are fighting, you don't side with your master. So to millions of people, this feels like a terrible time to be alive. We wake up with existential dread and too often see a future not worth living for. But we have something that has never existed in this country before. We have the most advanced revolutionary thinker in the world, and a party is following his leadership to make revolution right here in the belly of the beast, at a time when the future of humanity hangs in the balance. That makes this a great time to be alive. And that is why I'm donating $500 to the National Revolution Tour. I don't always have this kind of money, but when I do, I can't think of a more important way to use it. Every day, I dream of revolution. I dream of a world where humanity can finally soar. But this is not an empty or otherworldly dream. It's a dream that we have the knowledge, strategy, and leadership to make real. So that was an amazing, inspirational statement from a dreamer in Texas who donated $500 again. And I think that just captures what this movement is all about. And I think it captures this thing around people waking up with dread and lack of hope, that you look at the world and you don't want to be alive. You have so much dread. But this person is saying no, because they are a part of the movement for revolution, because they're engaging the RNL show, because they're engaging BA's body of work and talking and working with the RevComs. They have something to live for. They have something to fight for, and they have something to die for. And they are so happy to be alive in this rare time where a real revolution could actually be possible. And I think breaking that down for people and letting people know that this is what their contribution is going to, a whole different future and a whole different way to be living for that kind of future, is so inspiring. And we need a lot more of that in this time when too many people are going along with this. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it was read well, and we really appreciate that statement. Really did. It moved us both when we were preparing for this today. I am very excited to announce we set a goal and we made the goal. So we raised we met the two $1,000 challenge donations, and we've now raised $4,000 in this last hour, and we did it together. We did it all across the country with people giving amounts big and small. So thank you to everyone who gave. We have raised now $5,879, and we did it together. So you were going to introduce another video.
Yes. So next, we're going to talk about the weekly YouTube show, the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, and what difference this can make, and why this is something you should get on a mission to support and spread. But first, we're going to show a creative how-to about the revolutionary change jars. So check it out.
Today I'm going to be doing a short tutorial on how to make a revolutionary change jar. This is one of many ways to raise funds for the revolution that is so urgently needed and absolutely possible. I'm going to be decorating a mason jar with scrap pieces of paper that I'm writing our Venmo and CashApp on, as well as stickers from the revolution clubs. I'll be taping it all down. You can get really creative with this and attach some of your own art. I'm keeping it simple for the demo, but I had fun. I'm also repurposing a flyer I found with the QR code to the declaration and call to get organized now for a real revolution. So when people encounter this jar, they can directly go and read more about the mission that we are on. People like to take these jars to their favorite coffee shops, or go door to door in their apartment complex asking for donations, or simply set it by their front door so when they have parties or their guests come over, they can tell them about the revolution, spread the word, and actually contribute to funding the revolution. Here's the finished product. Do edit with your design.
So these revolutionary change jars, that was a kind of very, oops, I forgot to turn off the loud sound. Sorry, hold on. That revolutionary change, that revolutionary change jar is, there we go. Very sorry, it's live. That revolutionary change jar is an example of something that we think needs to and can take off and spread all across the country. So the idea, you saw the little cute video about how to make the revolutionary change jar. And the idea is that you take that and you put it in your home, you bring it to work, you put it in your store counter, you bring it to your high school after school club meeting, and you talk about what you're raising funds for. But it's a way that people, if you've got pennies, then you give your pennies. If you've got $5, you give your $5. And it's a way that people start amassing their strength, and they do it together. And then you bring that revolutionary change jar. Let's say you're part of a weekly RNL circle, and you bring that revolutionary change jar to your RNL circle, and all of you pour the funds out and you add it all up. And again, it's an example of how to build networks of organized support for the revolution. It's a way to build partisanship. When you're taking that revolutionary change jar around, or that it's in your house with a big sign, people are going to say, what is that? And what are you raising funds for? And it's an opportunity to talk with people about the revolution, why they should be part of it and why they should be supporting it. So we really want to see these revolutionary change jars take off as a form across the country. And we want to hear from you on your ideas, your experience. How are we going to build up the organized forces for revolution, and how are we going to fund this revolution? So I wanted to say more about that. And I did just want to echo a point that we heard Dr. Phil Rice earlier say, that, look, if you're not serious, that you're not serious about revolution, if you're not serious about raising funds for this revolution, because it's not a charity. because it's something that people have to take responsibility for. And because we have to put that challenge to masses of people, that they have to step up, they have to be part of this revolution. And yes, they have to be part of taking responsibility for this revolution, because the future is on the line, and we can seize it, and we can change it, and we can do it all together. So we made our $4,000. Okay, that makes more sense. We have raised $7,257, and we did it all together. But we've got another hour of this live stream, and we've got a lot of kind of very exciting and fascinating things. I'm going to bring up somebody from the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, in just a minute. But I'm going to give us another assignment for this next hour. And we got a challenge from a group of people. They pooled their funds together so that they could put out a challenge for $1,800. And I'm going to call on everyone here to work together to meet that challenge in this next hour. And here's what their challenge says. It says it's from a group of healthcare professionals and educators who stand with the oppressed of the world, who see Bob Avakian and the new communism as the only positive pathway out of the horrors that we confront. The Get Organized for an Actual Revolution tour is a remarkable crew, followers of Bob Avakian, leaders in their own right, who are fighting for, representing, and modeling the future that we all aspire to. So they pooled their funds together. They sent us this beautiful statement, and they're going to give $1,800, but they want to see that matched. And they want to see that matched by you, by people you can call, by people you can reach out to. Post this. If you haven't been posting it on Facebook groups you're on, post it on Twitter, post it on social media, DM a bunch of people who follow you, reach out and say, tune in, stop what you're doing, tune in for the next hour. You're going to hear an argument for why you should contribute. So now I'm going to play a clip. We're going to play a clip from Andy Z from the RNL, the host of the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, talking about the 100th episode.
Another show that every week brings why we need a revolution, what a revolution is. 2 weeks from today's episode will be the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show's 100th episode. We want to make this a special program about this show. Not only will this episode be about the RNL show, about our mission, what we've done, and what needs to be done, but in an important way, it is about and needs to involve you. The 100th episode must mark the beginning of a campaign to grow the audience for the RNL show to where many thousands are viewing this show every week. A campaign through which RNL viewing circles and parties are not only watching the show, but commenting and raising questions, ideas, and proposals. A campaign that raises the funds to promote the show with posters, stickers, and online advertising. A campaign to find and train and work with new reporters, correspondents, videographers, editors, and graphic artists. There's no other show that every week brings why we need a revolution, what a revolution is, how we could really make a revolution, and what kind of society and world this revolution would bring into being. The Revolution Nothing Less show not only features the work of the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian, but we bring alive the Constitution for a new socialist republic in North America that he wrote, that is not only a vision of a new society, but a very concrete blueprint for a society that is going to work on overcoming all the wars, environmental devastation, and divisions that plague humanity today. The 100th episode is an opportunity to work together to overcome the contradiction between the great need that the RNL show fills and its unique quality, and on the other hand, the still too low level of viewership. Let's go to work on this. We have a few things to ask you to do today, and then we'll have more next week in our 99th episode. So for today, please start sending us video testimonials, whether they're individual or group. You can record this on your phone, or you can get more elaborate if you want to. And we want to share these on our channel and some of them on the 100th episode. And very important, send us your ideas for how to expand the audience, along with suggestions for the show itself.
So welcome, Atlas, to the National Fundraising live stream. This is Atlas Winfrey. He works on the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, and is part of the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution. So welcome to your studio.
Thank you, Annie. Happy to be here. And hello to everybody who's watching right now on the live stream. I am Atlas. I work with the RNL show, and I want to talk to you today about what it's like to be a part of this whole project. And before we do that, I want to introduce a video from Roosevelt, who is a part of the Revolution Club in Chicago. He sent this video getting into why did we even start this RNL show? Like, what is it about? What's the whole point of it? And I found it really compelling. So let's start with that. Let's go to that now.
We wanted to tackle so many different things. You know, we wanted to be able to reach the masses the best way we possibly could. And with a leader like Bob Avakian, you know, who's the architect of the new communism, you don't squander, you know, what he has to offer. You don't squander, you know, the solutions, you know, that we can all benefit from. You don't squander the work that he put in over years, you know, to help get humanity out of the crisis that they're in. We got the greatest leader of this time in our midst. We have his material. We have him backing us. And we needed a way to get this material out there and to the people. The first thing we came up with was the podcast. You know, that was a good way, but we needed more. You know, we needed something hard hitting, something that would get, you know, to the people and share with the people so the people could get a real idea of what's going on. You know, we wanted to let the people, you know, get something, you know, get to this and feel that, you know, that fire, you know, that a lot of us feel, you know. So we went around in the circles and we came up with different shows, you know. One show should be on YouTube. You know, we was trying to get the show on main media, you know, which was, you know, it hasn't happened yet. You can get the RNL show on CAN TV, you know, but we needed to get to more. We needed to get out there and get to a greater audience, you know. And the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, you know, is more informative than any show that's on YouTube. That's more informative than any media, any show that's on regular TV, you know, and it's hitting you with what's really going on and what you need right now, what you need to know that they're not going to give you. You know, I mean, the American crime series, you know, that only you get at RNL show is something, you know. But again, you got the architect of the new communism, you know, I mean, that's in your midst, you know, and you know, and you have the art of something terrible, something emancipating, you know, something truly terrible, something truly emancipatory, you know. You got a show that hits on so many levels, you know, of information. You know, so many levels of waking the people up with the only solution, you know, that one could possibly, you know, get, you know, when it comes to this type of system, and that is revolution. You know, we're not shying away from, you know, what it is, you know, that we're talking about. You know, because you cannot, you know, loosen up or be light on the truth. You cannot be light or loosen up or change, you know, anything to dilute the truth. You know, because it's you know, this is really, you know, what's going on. You know, you got some things that's going on within humanity right now that people need to be aware of, and you're not going to get it on any of those other news outlets or any of these other shows. You know, you're not going to get it the way that the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show is going to give it to you, you know. And this is a fact, you know. This is, you know, the absolute truth. You know, you got, you know, the author of the Constitution for a New Socialist Republic in North America, you know, and many other books. You know, I mean, Bob Avakian, you know, been around since the 60s. You know, never wavered, never sold the people out. You know, and they tried to get him. You know, they put that pressure on his ass. You know, but he never caved in. You know, he never went back on the people. Instead, he got even harder. He even dug in a little bit harder, you know, and gave the people, you know, what's really needed. You know, that's the type of leader that Bob Avakian is. You know, I mean, and then the solution, you know, I mean, is real and it's tangible. You know, I mean, it's something that you can look into and you can see it, you can research it, and you can see that it's 100. You know, that's what the young people say right now, right? 100. You know, so, look, I would say to you to get into the RNL show, dig into it. Oh, and one more thing, tune in and donate to the fundraising live stream for the National Revolution Tour. The goal is to get 50,000 by June 1st. You know, now this is from the RNL show. This is from the RevCom. And one thing for certain, when you donate to something that's real, it's really felt. I mean, it is really received, and the people work hard, and the people, you know, that's behind the scene, putting the show together. You know, they're doing what many others cannot do. You know, in their type of work, which is why their news stream, which is why their media is so diluted. You know, we're not going to give you any of that diluted shit. So that's it.
Well, I think that was a very good introduction to this, and thank you, Roosevelt, for sending that video. And I think it did lay out well what the mission is of the RNL show and what you get. But maybe you could talk some about from the back end. What's it like working on this show?
What's it like working on this show? Well, to be honest with you, to let you in on a little secret, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, what Roosevelt was saying, you know, why is it that the media is so diluting things? And why is it that in the RNL show, you get the truth, you get the cold, hard truth about reality? You know, it is because the RNL show, what we're doing is we're taking up and we're applying this new communism from Bob Avakian. You know, part of what the RNL show is about is trying to help people make sense of everything that's going on in the world. You know, you go on Twitter, you go on the news, you see, oh gosh, there's a world, you know, maybe World War III, Ukraine, all of this. You see immigrants, you know, millions of immigrants and what they're going through. You see typhoons and you see tornadoes and you see your Twitter feed is full of all kinds of BS, and you're just trying to make sense of all of this. What is going on? And the RNL show brings that to people. It brings people what is actually happening, what is actually going on. What are the facts? What is the cold, hard truth about what's going on? And we don't give it to you in any kind of varnished, diluted way. We give it to you straight up. What is going on? You know, Noche was just talking about this whole thing with Ukraine, the dangers, what the media is not telling you about the whole way the US has been escalating this stuff, you know, endangering all of humanity. We give that to you. We tell you straight up what you need to hear about that this could go to World War III, that this could go to nuclear war. But we also tell you another important truth. What is actually happening? What is underneath why all these crazy things that we're trying to make sense of, what connects it? What's underneath it? You know, and that is where, again, we're applying this new communism from Bob Avakian to analyze and understand reality. And when you watch the RNL show, we have all kinds of really cool segments that help you get into understanding this system. What is it? What is a system? How does it work? How are you getting played? How is the media trying to shape your thinking? And what's really going on? And I really love the part of working on the RNL show where we have all this, you know, we put music, you know, we put photographs on these, you know, we put videos, we put in clips of the media, we put in, you know, sometimes we do silly things. And I have a lot of fun doing that, but all of it is a part of trying to apply our creativity to trying to help people understand what is happening, why is it happening, but also that there's a whole other future that's possible. There's something that we can do right now to take humanity on a whole other course. And to be honest, it can be tough, but it's also really, really fun.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's clear you have a lot of fun with it, just in everything from like exposing the horrors, but also the foolery, the idiocy of the people who front for this system, exposing them, exposing how people are being played. I think you get underneath the surface of all of that. Because we are also on a fundraising live stream, I want to make a couple updates, and then I'm going to ask you another question. So we've raised $8,625, and we are aiming to meet this $1,800 matching challenge in the next 40 minutes. And I want to read a statement here of somebody that gave a $400 donation, and it's very relevant to our discussion here. They said they gave $400, and they said, every week, the RNL show and revcom.us provides analysis, exposure of what's going on and why, providing the revolutionary leadership of Bob Avakian and capturing our minds and our hearts with what is at stake for humanity, and putting the science of knowing and transforming reality out there to everyone. Imagine if thousands and tens of thousands, if hundreds of thousands of people were tuning in each week, how that could challenge the stagnant culture here. It really is time to wake up, not just to the horrible things going on, but how people can be a force for a liberating and beautiful future with our arms around humanity. This is the time to go boldly out into society with revolutionary vision and organization, and this takes support. I am sending $400 and urge all who want a real future, a revolutionary future, to do the same, to a beautiful future. So I want to thank the donor who sent that generous contribution and who made that statement. And I wanted to ask Atlas, what does the funding go to? Why does this show need financial support?
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk some about that, including, we heard from Andy on we're a week and a half out from the 100th episode, right? And it's both to put the show on, but also what has to happen in this 100th episode that's going to require funding?
Yeah, well, I'll just say one thing. If you want to change the world, the thing that you need most, the thing that you can't do without is people. And that's what we need. We need a lot of people contributing their creativity, watching the show, watching the RNL show, being a part of contributing to this 100th episode is really a leap in the audience. We have learned how to make this really amazing show, and we bring people what they need. And yet at the same time, we don't have the audience that we need. We need to reach millions, and we can reach millions. Just go look at some of these shows like Joe Rogan, just go look at all these, and they just put out nonsense, and we're putting out the truth that people need to get free. So that's one thing. We need people to come into this. We need you to come into this. We need you to contribute your creativity to the RNL show. We need you to come be a part of the RNL show. We want to work with you to make it, and we also want to work with you to spread it everywhere that we can. But two things we really need funds to do. One is we're professionals. We didn't start that way, but we became that. And we're really good at what we do. And that's, again, why we want to work with you. We've learned some things, and we can really use your support. But two, in order for us to keep doing this, in order to be professionals and put out a professional level show, we need funds. The food that we eat, while we're sitting there editing, that comes from your donations. The equipment that's here that is necessary. You got to have good lights. Look how good this looks. Listen how good this sounds, right? That equipment came from donations from people like you. These cameras, all of it has to do with people. People are the key to making this revolution. So the other point, we need to reach people. We need to get out to many millions of people, and we can. But in order to do that, we're going to need billboards. We're going to need stickers. We want to get stickers in your hands. We want to get posters up everywhere, and if you want to help design these posters and stuff like that, hit us up. It's time. This is the time to get out there and get millions of people watching this show. So we need right now thousands of dollars in order to get out on the craziest advertising campaign you can imagine. We need your creativity to come up with some wild ideas, some out of the box ideas for how we're going to make everybody from South Central to Chicago to New York and even people all over the world think, what the heck is that show about? I need to see that. Millions of people. That's going to take your funds on a lot of funds. We need a lot of funds. So come into this, donate right now, and contribute so that we can get this show for this 100th episode to thousands of people who are new and going forward to millions of people so we can make this revolution, so we can change the way that people are thinking about reality, and we can bring many, many thousands into this revolution right now.
Well, that's very compelling. And I think it's important for people to recognize that we set a goal for $50,000 by June 1st. But again, and I said this earlier, this is one iota of what's going to be required to kind of have the societal impact you're talking about. And it's going to take people, it's going to take energy, it's going to take ideas, it's going to take financial support on a whole other level. And that too is going to take your ideas. So again, I want to put it to people, if you want to answer Atlas's call and challenge to be part of the revolution, the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, write to the revcoms@gmail.com. And if you want to be part of organizing around that, you can write to that email, or you can write to us at getorganizedforrevolutiontour@gmail.com, or call the number on your screen. How are we going to break through to build up the networks of organized financial support all across the country and among all strata? What are your ideas? What do you want to do? This 100th episode, it seems to me, I think one of the things people should start planning now for May 5th, right?
Right.
Is have dinner at your house and watch the episode together. Charge people to come. We heard earlier people who said they were going to make candied apples. Somebody should make a banquet and invite people over and break bread together. And you can do it outdoors if you're somewhere to be COVID safe, or you can do it indoors. But that's something to plan right now, I think, as a way to kick off this fund drive. So we have raised $598 of the $1,800 match, and we need to raise $1,202 to meet that match in the next 33 minutes. So I think that's very possible, but it means you all, again, getting on your phone, getting on your social media. Maybe you call the people that you've been in recent contact with. Now go deeper. Who haven't you talked to in 6 months? What about that cousin who talked to you a while back about how worried they were about the climate, and you haven't reached back to them and really put the challenge to them? So now's the time to call them. We've got more that you're going to hear from us about the work of the National Revolution Tour, some very moving things about how this show actually is being used to train people, and kind of some very inspiring statements from a lot of young people who watch the show. So call people now and tell them to tune in. Atlas, thank you so much for being part of this national fundraising live stream. Thank you for the work that your crew does for this RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. And we share a lot of wrangling together, grappling together as part of this national revolution tour. And I think your spirit and energy adds a lot to that. So we appreciate that, and appreciate you all for supporting it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so now I'm going to read a couple more statements that have come in. This is an excerpt of a statement from a generous donor who contributed $5,000. So we want to thank you for that donation. And I'm going to read part of their statement. They said, "Human beings exploit and brutalize each other, but they don't do so out of some innate disposition. Only transforming our social order can solve this intractable problem. That is why the message of the Revolution Tour needs to be heard broadly. It is the only one that points to the real problem and offers the real potential to rid the world of the danger and the practice of war and the other manifestations of an exploitative system. We need the message of revolution to find its way into all corners of society, to become a motivation that moves millions. The revolution does not have all the answers, but it has important principles from which the answers can be found to tackle the problems that this system cannot possibly resolve. This is why I am contributing to the Revolution Tour and the message of revolution this May 1st, especially in the cities of New York and Los Angeles this year as a step toward building the kind of mass revolutionary presence and movement that is more urgently needed than ever. The world is on a nuclear hair trigger, and it's this capitalist-imperialist system, and not just Russia, but also the US and NATO, rival imperialist nations, that has brought the world to this dangerous moment. The slogans for this May 1st, it's the system, not humanity, that needs to become extinct. It reflects that very powerfully. My contribution is also reflective of my appreciation for the writings found in revcom.us, the contributions to the revolution, and the leadership provided by Bob Avakian and the Revolution Nothing Less show. So thank you for that generous contribution. Thank you for that statement. We've raised $8,625. We need to raise $1,200 more to meet that $1,800 match I read earlier. And I want to read another statement that came in. Actually, I'm going to wait a second on that other statement. I want to welcome back Luna. And so now we're going to talk some about one of the things we've begun. You know, Atlas talked about how the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, plays a big role in helping people understand why things are, what's happening, why they're happening, and where do the interests of humanity lie. And some time ago, Bob Avakian talked about how reality is like a kaleidoscope. It's like a big messy jumble that people can't make any sense out of. And one of the things that we've begun with revolution clubs all across the country, as well as here in LA, are these RNL circles. And they get together every week to watch, discuss, and make plans. And this form of organization is actually an application of what's discussed in the Declaration and Call to Get Organized for Revolution, where it talks about how it's key to getting organized is bringing people together to grapple together with why we need a revolution, what this revolution involves, and what kind of society this is aiming for. So I'm going to read a statement from a high school student. I know I'm reading a lot. Okay, I'm going to read a statement from a high school student who's been a part of one of these RNL circles. And then Luna, I wanted to ask you to talk some about what it's like, because I know you've been part of one. So this is a very inspiring statement from a young person who donated $20. And she said, "The lives of millions are affected to this day. They are affected by the economy, the climate, the government, the wars, the police, and above all, the system. People need to realize that change is possible. Achieving a world where the grass is greener, the waters are cleaner, and the people are happier is possible. I donated because the Revolution Club knows that it is not the people, but the system. And because the Revolution Club can make the change possible." So Luna, like I said, you've been a part of one of these RNL, these Revolution Nothing Less circles, and maybe you could talk some about what that's been like.
Yeah, well, I think that statement from this high school student who's been a part of these circles says a lot about what these circles have been like and the kind of transformations that people have been making in their thinking. And I think that it is, like you've been saying, it's an application of the Declaration of getting together to wrangle with why revolution is necessary, what does that revolution involve, and what kind of society are we aiming for. And I think it's been crucial and key in actually this point around fighting the power and transforming the people for revolution. And I think it's been a really rich experience to actually forge beginning and collective cores, getting into the biggest problems of the revolution that the Revolution Nothing Less show actually puts to masses of people out there in society who do care. And I think that it's actually it's given a lot of these they're mainly young women and young people who are in college and high school. It's given them, the scientific certitude to go out and actually organize others into this movement for revolution. And through it, many of these young people are already taking a lot of initiative and responsibility for Rise Up for Abortion Rights, which we'll talk about later. But they're also checking out and joining the Revolution Club, learning about the Revolution Club, and digging into deeper questions of even this question around abortion. Why are these attacks on abortion happening now? Where is this coming from? What does this have to do with patriarchy and capitalism? And so I think, again, it's been a really rich experience, and I wanted to read some quotes.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
before you do that, because we're going to hear some sort of directly from some of the people who've been, part of these circles with you. You're going to read some of what they've been saying. But I think just a couple of things for people to recognize is, one, the concept of these RNL circles came out of the National Revolution Tour, really banging our heads up against how we were going to build the kind of organization that's required for revolution. And we've done a lot of experimentation. I mean, we go out to the high schools or the college campuses or out to the neighborhoods, and we come home every night and we grapple with how far did we get? What are we encountering? How are we struggling with that? How are we reaching not just the individuals as they present themselves, but how are we going to reach blocks of people? How are we going to break through with this revolution? And we do. We have a roadmap that's a very, it's like a great big gift if you want to see humanity free, to be able to figure out how you're going to get there, right? But that has to be applied. That doesn't figure itself out. So I think this is one thing of the National Revolution Tour. It is providing the leadership in experimenting out and applying this revolution out in society, coming back together to figure out again, even our failures hold a lot of lessons, but mainly so that we can apply this so that we can make advances for this revolution. And I just wanted to say that this is what this came out of, is grappling with that and how to apply what's in the declaration. So maybe you can share then some of the testimonies from some of the people who've been part of this. I just want to give an update. We've raised $8,775 toward our goal, and someone's going to tell me in a minute how close that is to meeting the $1,800 match, and how much more we have to do in the next 25 minutes.
Right. So that's important. And I think, this is a direct quote from somebody who is a college student who has been a part of this RNL circle. And this is what they said after they watched some of the segments on Ukraine in the RNL show. And she said, overall, the show was, I guess, very empowering. It made me want to get up and do something. And that's important. And the media lies about things. And having a show that speaks to the reality and the truth motivates me to change things. And when I talk to my friends and coworkers, this lights up the need that they need to do something too. So that's one quote. And I think that is, again, reflective of what these RNL circles are actually forging. And I wanted to read another quote from a community college student who's from South Central, who newly joined the Revolution Club. And this was in a text conversation I was having with her, asking her reflections on the revolution at the last show. And she says, I'm always just speechless on everything that I learn, so much emotions that I get from just hearing and seeing all these testimonies and stories told by leaders. In a world so shitty, we need to spread all the awareness we can for abortion rights, for women's rights, and everyone. People are so blinded by the system that they don't see how they're controlling us. We need people questioning who is in control, who is trying to control our decisions. And we need to have people asking the big, deep questions. I'm so glad to be a part of the Revolution Club. It gives me strength to know that there's people all over the world who see that this world is so messed up and ruled by people who don't care about the working class. And one thing that I have been doing is bringing up the topic of abortion. What my friends think, and I always hear them agreeing with abortion, but when it comes to them standing up and taking action, they don't. But actions are louder than words, and that's what I heard, words. But I hope I can enlighten them and soon have them join us. And then this is another a response to episode 96, which the title was "The Future is Being Written. Will it be enslaving or emancipating? That is up to us." And this is a high school student who said at the end of this discussion that we have to take the pen and rewrite history. And I think that is the truth. And I think that the fact that a lot of new and young people are actually coming forward and grappling with these big questions because they have a certain recognition that it's their future that's on the line. And, you think about these are like the backbone forces for revolution. That's very inspiring. And I think that should inspire people all over who are watching this and who need to watch this and who need to donate, that doesn't matter what age you are or whatever background you're coming from. You whatever education that you have, you can actually grapple with these big questions of the revolution, and you can go to work on changing it. And that is what's in the Revolution Nothing Less show. That is what is in these RNL circles. And I think it is forging, and bringing forward revolutionary leaders in this time where a revolution could actually be possible, and revolutionary leaders is what we need most crucially. So
Yeah, and look, it's not the only form of organization that's needed, but clearly this is impacting and shaping people in ways that are really important. And I think, one of the things that's reflected in the statements you read and that we're up against overall is people really, people step forward, they want to see a better world, they're inspired, they're angry, and they look around and it's like, but my friends are where? And that can be really demoralizing for people. So I think it's, you made the point, but that watching the RNL show together with other people like them and people not like them, but watching it together and discussing it afterwards, it's like clearly having an impact in forging that scientific certitude about what's true and what's bullshit. And that's not a one and done process, right? That's a struggle. But I just think, given how much people base themselves on what people think largely in our society, that's really important.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
So we have raised, hold that paper up again. We've raised $748 of our $1,800 match, and we need to raise $1,052 to meet that match. So we're getting closer. We've got 20 minutes to meet this goal. So, make a contribution, call friends, ask them to make a contribution, be sending out the text messages. We're going to show some videos in just a minute of the National Revolution Tour on the ground. It's something people need to see if they want to know where their funds are going to. You're going to have an answer in just a minute. So keep contributing, call people. Let's meet this goal together. And I just want to say more about, there's Atlas said a lot, Roosevelt said a lot in his video, Andy said a lot about the difference this show makes in really training waves of young people, like you were saying, Luna, and to understand reality, to take up a scientific method to reality, to be part of getting organized for revolution. I mean, I talked earlier about this talk from Bob Babakian, something terrible or something truly emancipating. And he says straight up that the most important thing, that everything depends right now on bringing forward a revolutionary force. And key in that is bringing forward leaders of this revolution. And you can see kind of the difference it would make if people were really getting trained by and grappling together and coming to understand reality together in the ways you're talking about. But all this requires funding. It requires funding to spread the word of the show. It requires funding to produce the show. It requires funding to have people like you, Luna, be able to put yourself to this full time, right? Mm-hmm. And others on the National Revolution Tour being able to put ourselves to this full time. So this, it requires your support. So contribute, and your ideas, your funding, your participation in fundraising projects, in yard sales, in bake sales, I think in our last live stream, we had video of somebody who made keychains that they were selling for the holidays. All kinds of creativity can be put to raising funds. Even if you don't have your resources yourself, you have skills, you have ideas. Let's put all that together and build a national movement to raise funds for this revolution. So I want to read two statements real quick. One is, actually, Luna, why don't you read this statement and then I'll read this other statement.
Right, so this is a statement from somebody who gave a $50 donation. So they said, the reason why I am donating $50 to the Revolution Tour is because I am outraged and saddened at the state of the world that the world is in. Humanity is crying out for real change, and I believe the Revolution Tour represents the best force in the world today. That I believe I can make the real revolution that is so badly needed. The capitalist system we all live under is causing great suffering for people all over the world and can cause humanity to perish. It is because of this system that we are all facing possibility of nuclear war. We deserve a better world, and a better world is possible. That is why I'm donating $50, and I hope other people give generously too. One of my favorite slogans is stop thinking like Americans and start thinking about humanity.
Yeah, mine too.
Yes.
And what would it mean right now if we're able to put these slogans, put these messages, the slogans for May 1st that Noche talked about, the difference that makes right now, if that is on every wall all across Los Angeles, if it's reaching out to people on social media, those distillations of reality, that can change people. It can change people what they understand the problem is, what they understand the solution is, and what they think is worth fighting for. But this has to reach people. So I want to read a statement from somebody who contributed $1,000. And they said, earlier, and they said, many people these days recognize and readily say that things are really crazy these days. And then the person who sent the statement, they gave some powerful examples: the right to abortion being taken away or hanging by a thread, the crisis and the danger of the war in Ukraine, the environmental catastrophe. And then their statement went on and said, people are shaken and they're questioning due to all of this. And there's some very encouraging resistance. But all too many are still stuck flickering around in the horrendous ideological aura of this so-called best possible world, like moths trapped by a deadly flame. We see the Revolution Tour as a leading edge of effort to organize a revolutionary people, a team working with fierce determination, seeking to apply a consistently scientific method and approach, and full of the joy of modeling and leading people onto the only viable path for humanity to liberate itself, to build a whole new society and have a chance to do the urgently needed work to heal the global environment before it is too late. This is certainly not easy, but it is possible, and we must and we do support it and encourage all who hear this to do the same. So thank you for your generous support and for your moving comments. And it is full of joy and full of struggle, and it's not easy. But I think the fact that Noche gave voice to this, it's the most important thing you could fight for. So make a contribution. And we're going to move to our last segment in a bit. But now we want to show a few videos of the National Revolution Tour on the ground and in the media. Do you want to introduce these?
Sure, yeah. So again, that was thank you for the person who contributed. That was very poetic. We're going to show Michelle Chai on Spectrum News first, and then we'll move to a clip at a school board meeting where fascists were trying to ban critical race theory like they're doing all over the country. And then we move to another video of Michelle in Spanish talking about an op-ed she wrote in La Opinión just days after they reprinted the full talk from BA, Something Terrible, or Something Truly Emancipating. And La Opinión, for people who don't know, is the biggest Spanish language paper in the US. So we're going to play these clips. Keep tuning in and check it out and spread this right now and donate.
And I just want to say that for people, the Spectrum News, the first clip we're going to show is a clip from, you'll hear Michelle talk about this, but it was from right after the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict came down, where that fascist was found not guilty for murdering 2 protesters. And, part of why we want to show these clips is you see the way in which the difference it can make for the National Revolution Tour to be out contending in society, and how that actually can impact and influence people all across the country. So we're going to play these 3 clips back to back, and you all can see and keep giving while we do.
Sorting through stickers and flyers, South Los Angeles native Michelle Chai is a full-time activist. She's preparing to demonstrate after the not guilty verdict was announced in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
Not guilty. We had a flyer ready.
She actually left high school before graduating after being motivated by the ideology of new communism, which she studied in depth. Today, she serves as one of the local leaders in the Revolution Club, a national organization that hopes to dismantle our current democracy, which she says is founded in white supremacism.
People should be angry and people shouldn't let go of that anger, but where is that going to go? Where is that going to get directed into?
As her and other members prepare for a press conference in response to the verdict, she says this support of Kyle Rittenhouse is an example of everything that she thinks is wrong with the justice system.
What this verdict represents is a stamp of approval, a green light for people just like him to go out and murder people in the streets for saying Black Lives Matter. That's unacceptable.
They have invited local activists to speak at City Hall and other community members who took to the streets during last year's Black Lives Matter demonstrations. Michelle continues to fight for her goal of emancipating humanity and creating a world free of exploitation and oppression.
Come together the way we did last year in the streets, saying no more, not letting these people have the upper hand.
Using the Rittenhouse verdict as a stepping stone to further her message.
Yes, my name is Connor. I'm a former student of this district. Under the guise of outlawing critical race theory, there's a vicious campaign by Republicans, fascists to suppress and silence any discussion about systemic racism against Black people and other people of color. They've attacked school board meetings like this one across the country, threatened the lives of teachers and officials. They claim that learning about white supremacy will make children, that is, white children, feel bad. Well, the truth is that this country was founded on slavery and genocide. When I learned about this history, it did make me, as a young white person and a student, uncomfortable. And that was a very good thing. That's right. It made me angry. It made me determined to do everything I could to put an end to this ongoing racist oppression. That's right. And now these fascists and their brain-dead, anti-mask, anti-science MAGA mobs want nothing more than to bury this history, replacing it with patriotic education to literally shape a generation of Hitler, or in this case, Trumpan youth. Decent people need to stand up against this. That's right, this is the last thing I'll say. Decent people need to stand up against this and need to do this as part of making a real revolution against this whole system. Thank you.
Hola, soy Michelle Chai, soy una de las líderes del Club Revolución aquí en Los Ángeles y acabo de recoger mi copia de la opinión y acaban de imprimir una sección de opinión escrito por mí con el título En un momento oscuro hay una base para la esperanza. El 6 de enero marcó el primer aniversario del atentado al golpe de poder fascista liderado por Donald Trump y los republicanos. En las vísperas de este aniversario, La Opinión publicó una nueva obra importante por el líder revolucionario Bob Avakian, con el título Algo terrible o algo verdaderamente emancipador. Yo he leído y estudiado esta obra y estoy convencida que esto es lo que necesitamos entrarle y aplicar en este momento que tanta gente está buscando respuestas. Cuando Donald Trump fue elegido en el 2016, lo primero que se me vino a la mente fueron imágenes de linchamientos. Había llegado a aprender sobre la fea historia de este país, que este no es el hogar o la tierra de la libertad, este es el hogar del capitalismo, de la explotación, del imperialismo, que domina y destruye alrededor del mundo. Y necesitamos una revolución real para poner un fin a este sistema. Pero se me cayó el alma a los pies cuando escuché que Donald Trump era presidente, porque yo sabía que mi peor pesadilla se iba a volver realidad. Lo que vimos el año pasado, el 6 de enero, es exactamente eso. Estos fascistas tratando de implementar este futuro de supremacía blanca, de supremacía masculina, de xenofobia, todo liderado por Donald Trump y los republicanos nazis. El intento de golpe de poder fascista estuvo muy cerca de triunfar, pero no ha terminado. Este fue un ensayo general, pero como muestra Bob Avakian en esta nueva obra, existe la esperanza en una base científica. Precisamente en estas divisiones que existen en la cima de la sociedad por los gobernantes, existe la posibilidad de sacar algo realmente positivo de esta situación que se ve tan horrorosa. Vivimos en un momento poco común donde la revolución se vuelve posible. Y Bob Avakian demuestra por qué se debe de hacer. Bob Avakian lleva décadas trabajando sobre el creciente fascismo en los Estados Unidos. Este es un líder que salió de los movimientos de los 1960 y no se dio por vencido, sino se puso a trabajar para traer enfrente una estrategia y un análisis de por qué necesitamos una revolución, de dónde viene esta opresión, y ha desarrollado el nuevo comunismo. Yo tuve la suerte de conectarme con el liderazgo y la obra de Bob Avakian. Para todos aquellos que en este momento están agonizando de la situación que vivimos y qué nos trae el futuro, tienen que entrarle a esta obra y a este líder revolucionario.
So those are examples of how the National Revolution Tour has been part of contending on the ground, trying to seize the headlines. It was very significant that op-ed in La Opinion just coming days after they reprinted Avakian's talk, something terrible or something truly emancipating. And this is what your financial support is going to, and much, much more to come. So make a contribution. We've raised $8,825 here together. We're on our way to meeting that $1,800 match. I can tell you in just a minute how close we are. And we've just got one more segment here in our live stream today. We've accomplished a lot, and we've got a lot more to do, and we've got to do it together. So our last segment is on the urgent battleground about on the question of the fight for abortion rights, and it's a concentration of whether the future will be something terrible or something emancipating. And the U.S. Supreme Court is just weeks away. They are poised to rip away the right to abortion, and we want to play an important illustration of a major piece. Sorry, we want to play an important illustration of a piece from BA that was really powerfully illustrated by the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, on this question, Bob Avakian on abortion and the fight for abortion rights and the emancipation of women. So let's play that, and then we're going to come back and talk with you more about the work of the National Revolution Tour as part of this fight.
The fight for abortion rights and the emancipation of women. The essential question at stake with the escalating attack on the right to abortion is the fundamental status of the half of humanity that is female, whether they will be enslaved or emancipated. Of course, in the case of the extremely small number of females who have transitioned or are transitioning to males, but who retain female reproductive organs and might get pregnant, they should have the right to abortion and to decent health care overall, without any stigma or discrimination. And in general, attacks directed against trans people must be actively, vigorously opposed. But in terms of its essential purpose and objective, the attack on the right to abortion is not aimed at trans people. The essence of what is involved is not inclusion or the lack of inclusion, nor is this about bodily autonomy in some general and abstract sense, a concept which, by the way, would logically include people coming from a very bad place, such as those anti-scientific lunatics and selfish individualists who refuse to get vaccinated against COVID. The attack on the right to abortion is a move to further intensify the already horrific oppression of women, denying them control of their lives and their very bodies, reducing them to breeders of children, cruelly subordinated to men and a patriarchal male supremacist society. Forced motherhood is in fact female enslavement. Anything which waters down or distracts from this essential truth is objectively aiding this fundamental attack on the half of humanity that is female, is undermining the fight for their emancipation and the emancipation of humanity as a whole from any form of oppression and exploitation.
So we're going to talk in just a minute about kind of some of the work we've been doing on the ground as part of this fight, in unity with others from different perspectives. But I want to give a quick update, and I want to say something about what you just heard. So we've raised $972 of our $1,800 challenge, and this is our last segment. So right now, think hard about what we're saying and why it matters and why you should contribute, but also who you can reach out to and have them contribute. Think about what you just heard. And the thing I want to say about this is this, and Roosevelt, in his comments about the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show, talked about the significance of the leadership that Bob Avakian is providing and how much we cannot squander the leadership that we have. What a big deal it is. The fact that there's never been a leader like this in this country, and there's no leader like this that's playing the role that he is playing on the planet right now. And this is just, it's just one example of many that we could cite. But what you just heard has so much simplicity, so much clarity about the stakes of something that really is world historic. So simple and sharp to be able to delineate and recognize the basic reality that this fight over the right to abortion is about the enslavement or the emancipation of women. And then it was the fact that powerful piece from Avakian, from BA, was illustrated by the RNL show so beautifully in a way that could be gotten and popularly reaching people all throughout society. I know, Luna, you and I have done a lot of work around this fight and on this question. And I know when this piece came out, we were both like, oh, thank you. That is very clarifying. So I don't know, we're going to, like I said, we're going to talk more about the work of the Revolution Tour on the ground on this, but I don't know if you just want to respond to that first, because I know we talked about in the agitation, the sharp delineation that BA makes and how helpful that was.
Yeah, I think that piece, again, like it was illustrated by the RNL show, is very clarifying. I think a lot of people who are seeing these attacks on abortion, and, we're boldly putting forward, forced motherhood is female enslavement, abortion on demand and without apology. And I think, exactly what everything that BA said in that clip, this is about the enslavement of women. It's not about inclusion or lack of inclusion of LGBT people or trans people. Although we do need to, like you said, be fighting vigorously for the rights of trans people. But to erase the critical attack that is being heaped on and laid upon millions of women in this country and all over, to erase that in the name of inclusion is actually furthering that nightmare. And I think people have to recognize that, because this is coming from there's a lot of woke bullshit, to be honest. And to clarify that for people and to struggle with people over, like, look, if you're going to erase that, then you're on the wrong side of history here. And that's controversial, but we say, okay, good. Let's have that debate. Let's have that discussion, because it matters right now where the future is going to go, and whether there is going to be a fight for the half of humanity that is women and against these attacks on abortion. And so I think there's a lot that's concentrated in that piece.
Just, it's an example again of what difference it makes. First and foremost, to have Avakian's leadership being provided, to have it on revcom.us, to have it be illustrated with something like the RNL show, and to have a force that's working to apply and spread it, yes, with people all across the country, and the National Revolution Tour aiming to provide leadership for what has to be a growing movement for revolution, all up against all the reformism, up against all the, as BA said himself, the woke obstruction of people that are going along with and obfuscating and confusing and distorting the reality of the actual problem. So, and especially at a time when it's so urgent. So anyways, we went on, but I wanted to talk some about the significance of that. We are at $8,880. We want to, I lost my place here. Okay, now I think what would be helpful is we want to play we're going to play a few more clips more about the role of kind of recognizing what BA just said about the stakes of this fight around abortion. There's volunteers from the National Revolution Tour who've been part of uniting with people from different perspectives in the coalition Rise Up for Abortion Rights. And this is a coalition that was co-initiated by Sunsara Taylor, who's also part of the National Revolution Tour. If you watch the RNL show, she's a co-host of that show. And the RevComs and the National Revolution Tour has thrown in and working with people from all different perspectives and struggling with people everywhere and high schools and college campuses and all throughout society to throw in themselves and to get into the streets. So we're going to play two videos back to back. And real quick, if you know anyone who recognizes the urgency of this question, then tell them to tune in to the last part of this live stream and to make a contribution to the National Revolution Tour, who's supporting and playing an important role in this fight. So we're going to play 2 videos back to back. One from Sansara Taylor from the RNL show, where she's talking about kind of the stakes of this fight, and she's talking about how she comes at that as a revolutionary and what difference that makes. And then we're going to play a clip from Michelle Chai, who's not here in LA. She's a leader of the Revolution Club in LA. She's part of the Revolution Tour, but right now she's in New York working with the Revolution Club there and playing a role with Rise Up for Abortion Rights. And this is a clip from her speaking at a rally on April 9th in New York City in Union Square. So we're going to play those 2 clips back to back.
Yeah, I think it's very important for people to understand that the Christian fascist program and the Christian fascist movement, which is now at the core of what is a fully fascist Republican Party, and it's a Christian fascism that has a dominant position on the Supreme Court and in many state legislatures across this country. It is deadly serious about criminalizing abortion everywhere. They're not going to be satisfied with a patchwork of states, some of which have abortion rights, some of which don't. They are going state by state and at a federal level to end abortion rights, and they're coming for birth control. And they're coming for LGBTQ rights. And they're coming for a whole host of other rights and foundational things that people take for granted today. The level of assault that will be accelerated, including the white supremacy that's woven into all of this in this country, is going to be so severe. People need to understand you need to draw a line now to defend this right to abortion for the lives of women, for what it will mean for women, but also as a bulwark and a rallying point against the entire fascist assault, and to build up the strength on the side of the people to defeat this fascism as a whole, and to build momentum and strength on the people's side and understanding on the people's side to go further towards something truly emancipating, getting deeper into the roots of this and this system. We need to wake a lot of people up to the need for revolution and organize them into that. That's not the same as the struggle to defeat the attack on abortion, but it is related and it does get to the root. And so there's a lot at stake and a lot of direction gets set in how this battle over abortion goes down.
Because of what it's going to mean for not just women, but all of humanity if these fascists are able to succeed in enslaving women. This nightmare of a future that we have to stop by getting out into the streets. We in the Revolution Club have 6 points of attention for the revolution. And our point of attention number 2 says we fight for a world where we fight for a world where all the chains are broken, where women, men, and differently gendered people are equals and comrades. And that's the kind of world that we are fighting for, and that's the kind of world that we intend to bring into being. And we follow the leadership of Bob Avakian, because this is somebody who has gotten to the root of why we are facing the situation that we are facing today. While being out and fighting for people to be here in the streets today, we've confronted many people that were seriously agonizing about why 50 years after we have had this right, why are they fighting to get rid of this right? Why is the Supreme Court right now looking at these cases and are getting ready to gut this right? Which is a very important and very right question to be asking. And Bob Avakian has done the work to go deep. What we don't see with a naked eye, he's actually done the scientific analysis to point to why it is that we are still fighting this fight. And why it is that now it has taken a leap where these people are fighting to enslave humanity. And we're taking up this fight as part of making revolution to put an end to this whole system of capitalism, imperialism that is at the root of all of this and why we're at this point. And part of what we are doing here today is we are bringing hope to people. Because when people look out and see how dangerous, how scary, and how dark the future looks, being out in the streets brings that hope.
All right, so those were very powerful statements and words from leaders in the Movement for a National, Get Organized for an Actual Revolution Tour and Rise Up for Abortion Rights. But before I get into a little bit more about Rise Up for Abortion Rights, I did want to give people an update. We have now made $11,680. Yay! Which means, I think that means we've met the $1,800 match.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And, again, thank you for donating, for contributing. If there's a statement from whoever made that,
whoever's
match,
plural,
or whoever's plural, exactly, who wants to send in a statement, that would be really important. And again, what you just saw in those clips and is very related to what these funds are, contributing to. And so again, we want to thank you. And so the National Revolution Tour, again, has sent volunteers to work with others and Rise Up for Abortion Rights. And recently, Rise Up raised funds to send people to be on the ground in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a state which passed the most restrictive anti-abortion laws in the country. In the National Revolution Tour, the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show are playing important roles in this broader coalition. And much more of this is needed, sending volunteers across the country, taking up the most urgent battles of the day, uniting broadly, and doing so as part of making revolution. And this needs your ongoing support.
So in addition to how the RevComs have built like really principled unity with people from different perspectives, another thing that we bring is an uncompromising and determination to this struggle, and as well as a scientific understanding. You saw that from Sansara, kind of the broader scope of what this is part of that she brought on the RNL show that she brings every week in her commentaries with Andy. But we also have a determination to go up in the face of these fascists, and we're nearing the end of our live stream here today, but here Luna is in the studio, and we wanted to play a clip of Luna here in LA, who was part of going the LA chapter of Rise Up for Abortion Rights. Thought it was important to go up in the face of Amy Coathanger Barrett when she came to the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley. And Luna was part of that trip, played a pretty significant role in that trip. And we want to play a video from that. And then Luna's gonna say some things about that briefly. So let's play that video.
This is Luna. I disrupted Amy Coney Barrett. You are an enslaver of women. And after I was dragged out, she snidely dismissed me.
As a mother of 7, I am used to distractions. And sometimes even outbursts.
This kind of demeaning and infantilizing of women is so in line with her Christian fascist program, subordinating the legal status of women to no more than incubators. Women are not children. When I said that forced motherhood is female enslavement, I was not having a childish outburst. I was sounding the alarm to the fact that the Supreme Court is poised to overturn Roe versus Wade in less than 2 months. This would be a Handmaid's Tale nightmare for women, and only the people can stop this by getting into the streets and rising up for abortion rights.
So Luna, maybe just talk for just a minute. Why were you part of that? Why did you go inside to disrupt Amy Coney Barrett? And, kind of what are the lessons you want to draw from that for people?
Yeah, I mean, I was a part of it because you cannot have somebody like Amy Coathanger Barrett come into, the city that you're close by without any opposition. It's everything, that I said in the clip. Like, she's somebody who's in the Supreme Court who is hammering in a future where women are breeders of children and where women are enslaved, the Handmaid's Tale future. So you have somebody like that come into town. It cannot go unopposed. And that's why I did it. And I think also why I did it, and the lessons that that I'm learning from it, is that more people need to be doing this. I'm coming from the understanding that patriarchy and capitalism, you cannot do away with one without doing away with the other. You need a revolution in order to do away with that. And coming from the understanding that a revolution is necessary and possible, and fighting to unite all who can be united. to stop these attacks on abortion and to stop the overturning of Roe versus Wade come spring, this spring. And, you know, why I did this, and look, you don't have to be a revolutionary communist to do something like this. Why I did this is also to inspire others all across the country, young people and all, to do what I did, to go out and do creative and bold actions that are going up in the face of these fascists, telling them who they are and calling on others to get into the fucking streets. Like our lives depend on it, because they do. This is what is concentrated in the fight for rising up for abortion rights. The millions of lives of women that are on the line, and we need to be thinking about all the different ways, you know, bold and creative, and that shake society and wake people up to the fact that people don't even know that these attacks are happening. And so I hope more and more people see this to get inspired and to get motivated, to get some courage right now, to put something on the line to stop these attacks. So
yeah, I appreciate that. And, you know, that video that we just saw has gone viral on TikTok. And I think it inspired a lot of people. And I think one of the lessons is the importance of that boldness, because that you recognize the stakes of this fight. And the more people can understand themselves, deeply scientifically understand what is at stake, again, what's happening, why, and where do the interests of humanity lie, the more they can find their courage, not just as individuals who step out, which you do need a lot more individuals to step out and put something on the line, but in doing so together with others in building a national movement. Yes, uniting broadly around this particular and very urgent fight around the right to abortion, and broadening your sights and lifting your vision to bringing into being a world where we never have to fight for the basic right for women to be free again. Yes, as Michelle said, with the answers to why after 50 years we have to get in the streets to fight just for the basic right to control our own reproduction. That has to be no more, and it can be no more through an actual revolution. And what's required is to build up the forces for that. So I think, you know, there's a lot of lessons in that. People should watch that video, should spread that video. And look, we've raised $16,780. This is pretty important. We've gone quite far, actually, toward our $50,000 goal, but we're not quite halfway there. So we've got some work to do together to roll up our sleeves, to raise the funds. Sorry, I'm just looking at an update I got. Other donations are going to be added as they come in. And we've gotten some more donations. I think it's not been all sorted out coming into the live stream. And those are going to be announced at revcom.us. So stay tuned. But even more than staying tuned and finding out how we're doing, which I'm sure everyone will want to do, send us your ideas. We have to put ourselves very urgently to breaking through in a very difficult situation where people are caught up in a lot of bullshit, where this system is bringing us to the brink of potential nuclear war, and where there's tremendous silence and acquiescence. And yet, underneath that lies the potential to break through, the potential for a positive resolution to this outrage, not telling ourselves lies or going for the okey-doke or pretending it's going to be good if we say it's going to be all right. But no, recognizing that through the hard struggle in front of us, we can fight to break through. We can build up the forces for revolution. We can bring into being a whole new society, one in which humanity could flourish. But that's going to take all of us. So send us your ideas. How are we going to raise the funds? What about these R&L circles? How might they grow? How might they reach others? What are your ideas to reach people who with these, I didn't show our revolutionary change jar earlier, but who can give with these revolutionary change jars? How can this as a form spread all across the country? And if you're somebody who watches the R&L show in a small town somewhere, talk with us about how you might build up the organization if you're just one person or if you're 10 people. But also send us your ideas on how are we going to reach people who've got even greater resources, people who can match a high school student who gave $20. Send us your ideas on how we're going to reach people who can multiply that times 10, who can give $2,000 contributions. How are we going to break through to raise the funds to meet this $50,000 by June 1st and to go even more than that and raise the tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars needed in short order for the National Revolution Tour to kind of have the kind of societal impact that is urgently needed, and that we have to come from behind, and we have to move fast because there's a lot on the line in this moment. So I think with that, you want to say any parting words, Luna?
I guess I'll just say again, thank you everyone who has contributed, who has donated. Together, we were able to raise $16,780. But a lot more is needed, just like you said. Like we gotta go to work. You know, this is the time. This is the moment where people need to and can reach for the heights. And I think, you know, it's not just going to be us. We're not, you know, the volunteers in this cohort are not special in some kind of way. But, you know, we have come from a certain understanding through digging into the work of Bob Avakian, through engaging RevCom, through watching the RNL show as you know, we've seen on this, and going out and try to fight for others to do the same. You know, anyone can actually do this and become a leader in this revolution. And just like Bob Avakian said, like, everything depends on, in this extreme moment, like we said in the beginning, everything depends on bringing forward a revolutionary people. And all of you who are tuning in actually have responsibility in that. And in donating and raising the funds to make that possible, but actually going out and spreading the word to new people to donate, to be a part of this, to get into BA's work, to watch the show. And I think, you know, this is a time where, again, like in that title, we can go something terrible or something truly emancipating, and everything depends on you being a part of that. And so again, thank you for tuning in. Spread this, and let's reach that $50,000 goal for June 1st, but let's go more than that. Let's raise a lot more than that. And again, thank you for everyone for tuning in and donating. So
all right, let's go. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.